So Tisha
Mhm.
it's Poncio, is an alumna of the Learning Technologies Department. She graduated in 2019 with a master's degree. She has served in public education for 21 years as a classroom teacher and a digital learning specialist. She has presented at numerous educational technology conferences, like she was doing at ISTE, where I met her, across the nation and in her home state of Texas, speaking about student leadership, student autonomy, digital citizenship for all ages, and meaningful technology integration. She's currently serving as digital learning specialist for Wakelet. So let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. So today our format is going to be an interview style. I'm going to interview Tisha about the things that she's been up to, and perhaps you'll hear some advice about how you can use your degree or what you can do in the future related to what Tisha has been doing. Maybe you'll get some good suggestions. And then after that, I'm going to let her share her company's tools and techniques that you can use maybe in your classroom if you're a teacher, or as you develop any kind of technology for school, education, even maybe just your life. Maybe you like to be online a lot. Okay, so are you ready, Tisha?
I'm ready.
Okay. So before entering the EdTech world, you taught English language arts, multimedia, and broadcast classes, and you supported the publication of the digital yearbook for K through 12. Can you share a few highlights of your time in the English classroom and share what inspired you to take the jump from working in public education, which is so important, to working in a corporate environment?
Sure. Well, again, I just want to say thank you to Lisa and for all of you joining. I'm so excited to share my story with you, and I hope it does inspire you to know that really anything is possible. No matter where you are in your degree, no matter what you're doing, you can really do anything. And that's really where my story started. Before we started this call, I told Lisa that, and Adam, shout out to Adam back there, said that my journey really started in 8th grade when I had a teacher tell me that I was not capable of being in an honors English class. And that hit me very hard as a student, and it really impacted my belief in myself, but it also inspired me. So I used that moment to really trigger and launch me into what I'm doing. So when I went for my undergrad, I decided that I wanted to be an English teacher. I did go on to be in that honors English class, and then I went on to get my undergrad degree in education with emphasis in computer information systems as well as English, which back then people told me it wasn't possible and they didn't go together. And the truth is, I'm proof that they go together. So in that English classroom, it's not unlike me to push the envelope a little bit, Lisa. So I was teaching high school English, sophomore and junior English. And as I was looking at those standards, I was thinking, how can I really push these students to more? How can I push myself to more? We didn't have a lot of technology when I was teaching these classes. And so we didn't have a one-to-one environment at all. We didn't even have MacBooks. This was when teachers had desktops in their classroom and that was it. And they were hooked up to TVs. I'm just saying that is crazy because of how far we've come. But I was gifted a MacBook Pro from my administrators, and essentially I was the test person. And so I used that one MacBook Pro with all of my English classes, and we started creating podcasts. And that was just unheard of. Nobody on my hallway knew what a podcast even was. They had never heard of GarageBand. But I tried already back then to take those learning standards and combine them with the technology. And that was in a time when there were not digital learning specialists and technology integration. And there wasn't even a degree for that because nobody knew what it was. And I didn't know I was doing that. But in that moment, I realized that there was really something to that technology and pairing it with those content areas. So of course, I was launched into all sorts of roles in my school, like we all are. We wear many hats and we're asked to do many different jobs. And that's why my description is like I was all over the place, because we always are. And it was in 2017 that I decided to form a student tech leadership group at my high school, where they wanted me to stay at that high school campus full time as a digital learning coach. And I thought, this is an incredible time to put together the student technology leadership group. I really want to see what this looks like. I really want us to, focus on leadership for students so that they can go out and be great leaders of the world. And so it was in pulling that group together that we started studying John Maxwell leadership strategies. And I brought in a certified John Maxwell coach that came to talk to my students once a week, for 6 weeks during their lunchtime. And like I always have said, I'm never going to ask my students to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I sat at these meetings with them during lunch, but I didn't anticipate that those meetings would challenge me to set goals. And I set a goal to go back and get my master's degree 20 years after I got my undergrad. So I started looking for degree programs, and I kept landing on UNT Learning Technologies. I kept landing on it. I kept landing on it. I thought there's a reason. I kept looking into it. I had some discussions and I thought, okay, well, what can I lose? So I just started, and it was in that program. It was in that study, all of those course studies, all of those classes, all of those professors, that I started realizing that I had a passion for not just the technology, but for the product. And because of my computer programming background, I really wanted to understand what it was like on the other side of those platforms. So I was used to the student teacher side. I wanted to see what it was like on the other side. And I also thought, as an educator, I was able to provide a vantage point and a perspective that maybe these companies didn't have. So I really just started thinking about it, right? Every great thing starts as just a single thought. And so I kept doing my degree plan, and I graduated right before the pandemic. But by the time I graduated in December of 2019, I realized this is what I'm going to do with the next part of my life. And so now my role is essentially what it was before. I'm still working with educators and teachers and community members and bringing people together globally to integrate technology, to integrate our platform. But I'm also able to have conversations with product and engineers and CEOs and investors and all of the people that come together to make these educational technology tools a reality for our students, and really give them insight and valuable advice on how to make it better for all of you and all of those students coming up as leaders.
Okay. All right. So you kind of you opened the door to my next question. I think you are a little bit unique in your past, but is it common for classroom teachers to move into the educational technology space as support for other teachers in the district? Or what do you think specifically or particularly prepared you for that?
Well, I think because I had a natural ability and a gravitational pull towards technology, towards problem solving, critical thinking. For me, it was so natural to help other teachers. And I think that's really what pulled me into that. But I will tell you, Lisa, that it was with the pandemic that I
Mhm.
started seeing the majority of teachers saying, you know what? I can really be valuable to this company, and maybe this is what I want to do. So I definitely saw an uptick in 2020. And of course, many people don't know my story. They don't know that background. It appeared from the outside that one day I woke up and I went, oh, I'm going to go work for a company. And then it
Mhm.
just happened. And that's not really the behind the scenes story. It did take a lot to lead up to that. And I don't know, the preparation for that. You definitely want to talk to people that are in the field. You want to have those discussions. And so I started having discussions with people who made that transition. Back then, there weren't many people. I had a mentor, and a lot of you can Google him, Carl Hooker. He was a digital learning coach in Eanes ISD, outside of Austin. And I had a lot of conversations with him and a couple of other educators who had made that consulting transition. So they were going from the classroom to consulting, which is also what I did on my weekends and my days off. And I
Side
would
hustle.
say, absolutely. I mean, every educator I've talked to just recently, they all have a side hustle, and we all had to, right? But I think if you can just find some people who can give you advice and kind of coach you through what that process looks like and coach you on those skills that you need. But I'm, Lisa, 1,000% confident that it was the UNT Learning Technologies program that really got me to really feel confident in that ability to go out and even seek those jobs, even look at them, even think that I was possibly even maybe remotely qualified for those jobs. So Hopefully that helps to answer that question. I'm not sure I
So,
fully
so like
answered
a
it.
confidence booster, right? Like a confidence
Yes,
booster.
yes, yes. I would say, and that's really the key. Surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do, right? Make those contacts, find them on LinkedIn, connect with them on Twitter. I think I always used to tell my students, feel the fear and do it anyway. It definitely is a fearful
Mhm.
thing to reach out to people and ask, but when you can find that community of people, and this is with anything, find that community that's going to support you and surround you and coach you, I think that will build your confidence to go, oh, this is what this can look like for me.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, and you also opened the door to the next question by mentioning the MS in Learning Technologies degree. My question is really, besides the confidence that it helped you build in yourself to be able to jump into the corporate world, how else did this degree prepare you for this step up along your career path?
Well, I think what it really did is it made me really take time and think through what good technology integration looks like, with sound research behind it. So
Mhm.
one of the things I do now is when I'm presenting to teachers and educators and district admins all over the world, I always will go through that research process. And that's something that I did before very lightly, but
Mhm.
now I felt like I really knew how to do that well, and then take that research and present it in a way that those educators and administrators could understand it. I think the other thing it did is it really opened my eyes to some of the ideas and thoughts that were shut down a lot of times by other educators. For example, I
Mhm.
love social media. And when social media, and I told Lisa this before, but I'm studying Web 3. So if you go back and you talk about Web 1, which was very much, you're going and finding research and you're reading those articles and consuming them. And then Web 2 in 2005 hit my classroom like a ton of bricks. And I thought, what is social media and why? What am I going to do with this? Because I could already see its impact on my students from day one. And I thought,
Right.
I have to figure out what is this? How can I launch this to my advantage as an educator because my students are so consumed by it?
Yeah, if you
And
can't beat
so
them, join them.
that's exactly it. And it's the same thing with Web 3. Web 3 it's up and coming. If you don't know about it, I definitely would tell you to go research some things. I'll be hosting a Wakelet booth at a conference for Ed 3. So if you're interested in that and you want more information, I will give that to you. But I think again, that's what UNT did for me. It really supported me in those thoughts, to not be afraid to have those conversations, to not be afraid to do the research on how does social media positively impact education, because you and I can go research how it negatively impacts
Mhm.
those students. I wanted to prove that it is a positive impact. And how do we do that as educators, and how do we support our parents to do that? It is a conversation, Lisa, that I have all the time since 2005. I'm still talking about digital citizenship. I'll be doing that this week when we visit some schools in Texas. There is still a need for that. And so I,
Mhm.
I think for all of us here, whether we're parents or we have kids in our family in whatever other capacity, whether we're teachers or administrators, it is a responsibility of all of us. And I think for UNT's program, those professors, they were willing to have a conversation with me about it. And they were willing to ask me questions that caused me to think through some of the other perspectives. And I really felt not pushed to the envelope in a negative way, but like I really felt like my thought thinking was pushed more than it had been before. And it was like a dance, right? It was a challenge. It wasn't too much of a challenge, but it was a challenge. And so same thing. I mean, we could apply that to any of the other courses. The instructional design, I'm actually doing that right now.
Mhm.
So the instructional design classes are helping me sit with developers and our content team and say, okay, this is what we need for a resource hub. This is what needs to happen. This is the right flow. And then really looking at it so it makes sense with that learning process. So I could go to every class and talk about that, even my webmastering classes, where I just met with one of our webmasters on my team this morning, and we were having a discussion about a web page that we need to execute for some of our districts. So, I mean, it comes into play every class I took, and that's what I loved about it, and that is why I sing its praises every day, because every class I took, even though some of them were difficult, I go back to them and go, you know what? I'm so glad I pushed through that, because it is serving me well now.
Well, that's great. And we're so glad to hear that. It's really nice to hear that. And then it sounds like maybe being back in the classroom gave you the time and space
Sure.
to, instead of working on the next student appointment or the next project or the next lesson plan you had to write, you could really, go into those thought processes and discuss them with your
Yes.
professors and the other classmates.
Absolutely. 100%. It really did. It really did serve me well. And I think my students were learning along with me while I was doing the
Mhm.
degree, because then I was having these meaningful conversations with them and really pushing their thinking as well.
Nice, nice. Okay, so in 2018, you were named a finalist as the TCEA Instructional Technologist of the Year. And I had to look up what TCEA meant. So it's the Texas Computer Education Association, for any of you who don't know. Can you speak to what that honor meant to you?
So it is by nomination. And if you don't know about TCA and you are not part of the TCA group or the conference, I am telling you, it's one of the best conferences in Texas. ISTE is always a top one where Lisa and I met, but TCA for me is right up there with ISTE. So, and it moves around Austin, Dallas, San Antonio. I believe in 2023, it will be in San Antonio. Registration just opened up, but I'm going to tell you why. It was such an honor. One, there are only 3 finalists, and again, it's by nomination. So your peers nominate you. And it is such a, I don't even know. I'm speechless by it, because
Mhm.
honestly, there are so many digital coaches and so many instructional technology specialists out there now. And for someone to recognize what I was doing in a role that doesn't get a lot of recognition
Right.
and doesn't get a lot of thanks and doesn't get a lot of like cheering.
Fanfare. Mhm.
Absolutely. It was a huge honor. Of course, just being a finalist was incredible. Of course, the other finalists and I did not win the top honor, but the truth is it didn't matter,
Mm-mm.
because we were recognized for our work. And that other finalist actually has gone on to work in the esports e-games industry, which is part of what his passion was then. And then for me, my passion was really that student leadership. How do we take students and teachers and have them work side by side and change the way that that looks, from the teacher standing at the front of the room and the students just sitting. I really challenged that mindset, but it was a huge honor. And of course, it's been several years, but just to be honored and recognized by your peers, whether it's in your district, whether it's in your state, or whether it's just at the conference that you have attended for so long, it really just meant so much. And I'm so lucky to have someone recognize that. It really is a huge thing. So my advice to all of you is, if you see somebody doing a great job, recognize them, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't have to
Mhm.
be a finalist or a huge award, but like just write them a note or an email, because it really goes such a long way.
Mhm. Yeah, and, 2018 may seem like a while ago to you, but to me, it just seems like yesterday. I think maybe when I get up in as many years as I've had, it seems really just like yesterday. So congratulations on
Thank
that,
you.
you know, and I'm sure you have a lot of, future awards yet to have been won. So you mentioned that team, that SWAT team that,
Yes.
that you worked with. You mentioned it at the beginning. And you did mention already that you learned something by reading the book that they read, and that's kind of what pushed you to go back to higher education to get your master's degree. Is there anything else that either you learned from the students themselves or you taught them that you feel like is valuable for us to know about?
Yes. It's so funny because you're segueing into my presentation in a minute with that
Oh, okay.
question. So I will segue into that. The interesting thing is, I always say, you either wake up one day and you know a veteran teacher. As a new teacher, I knew lots of veteran teachers from the lunchroom. But then I woke up and I was the veteran teacher, and
Mm.
I had that mindset of, don't really tell me how to do this, because I think I've been doing it for 20 something years and I know what I'm doing. Like, don't tell me about that new tool. Don't tell me about that new strategy. I might try it, I might not, right?
I
mean,
have
it's
my
not
system.
exactly. And so I remember as a young new teacher watching that happen, going, wow, that's so close-minded. Like, and then it happened. And so for me, my students are the ones in 2017 and 18 that challenged that mindset. And I thought I knew everything, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I thought my way was the way. And what I learned was that there is a way, but not the way. And my students taught me that. They taught me that if I would just create space, a safe space for them to teach me something instead of the way I had always seen a classroom, because that's how I grew up. The teacher has all the information. The teacher's the holder of the information. We must now wait on her to give us the information. And she is, she's the holder, she's the gatekeeper. And my students taught me, no, that's not how this is going to go. We have things that we can teach you, and you have things you can teach us. And it is a partnership. And if we will be side by side and sit side by side instead of the hierarchy that we're used to, we can be much more powerful together. And that is essentially the big learning moment for me at the end of my time with them.
That's great. That's great. I love that. My last question to you is, we probably have some students here, and I wonder what advice you would give to a student considering a career like yours. What should they be doing to prepare themselves?
So I've already hit on that a couple, I've said this multiple times, but honestly, it is going to be your professional learning network, your personal learning network. You definitely want to find people who are doing what you're doing, or find people who have that same mindset, and surround yourself with those people so that you can learn together. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, and UNT and Learning Technologies did this for me. Of course, we had to do the portfolio. We had a blog. We had all kinds of things. We were pulling all of our artifacts together to showcase what we knew and what we could do. So that's actually my next piece of advice. So instead of doing it for your degree, maybe start looking, and I have the perfect platform for you to do this with.
You?
I do. And that's actually how it happened. I created a digital portfolio because I was telling my students, our resume and our CV is a promise of what we can do, but the portfolio is proof. And if you can take a platform and make that portfolio not just proof, but living proof that is a video, and a video of you talking, and then maybe some examples of your students, and then some conferences you've been to. And if you can curate all of that in a single place, and then put that to your LinkedIn account, your Twitter account, your Instagram account, and start really branding yourself, come up with a brand for yourself, come up with words that you think of, that you really hone in on, that you truly believe in. That is my advice, because the truth is, you want to set yourself apart, and UNT helped me do that. I mean, along the way, I was learning little strategies in each of those classes, and in each of those different activities and assignments and papers and whatever we had to create. I really thought, okay, there is something to this, and I have this way to set myself apart. And that's what you want to do. And again, getting a coach, getting a mentor. I'll tell you, I have coached multiple educators since then in doing that exact process. And we kind of just learned on our own. Nobody was really teaching us. We were just watching kind of how social media was going about, and the different brands that were doing things. And so you just try to mimic that as an educator. What happened is I started getting people would see my email, see my portfolio, and they would say, Tisha, can you come to this conference? Can you come to our school district? So I started consulting. That's how that sort of came about. So then I didn't know anything about consulting. And I was like, I've never invoiced anybody my entire life. I don't even know what
should I charge? Yeah.
And that is always the question. So I went to those mentors, that PLN, PLC, and I said, what are you charging? What is fair? What does this look like? Do you have an invoice? And so when people are freely sharing that advice with you, it just builds you up. And so that is the best piece of advice. And of course, that does segue into my presentation, because I do have the tool for you. And I believe that this platform will serve you well, just like it did me. And I'll show you my profile so that you can even copy it.
Excellent. We cannot wait to see that. Right before I'm finished with my questions, and right before we move on to the next part, I do want to thank you for mentioning mentoring, because I do think that having a mentor, I had a mentor when I was starting out, and she's still my mentor today.
Yes.
And then she tells me that I mentor her back now.
Yes.
I'm
That's
no
how
longer,
you know.
yeah.
The student becomes the teacher.
Yeah, I'm no longer the young one with the fresh ideas, but at the beginning I was.
Yes. Yes.
And we do have a mentoring program here at College of Information, which is the Dr. Yvonne J. Chandler mentoring program. And I want to encourage any students to sign up for the spring program. The fall program is going on right now, so it's in progress. But if you're interested in getting a mentor and you don't have one, of course you can get one through one of your student organizations, or maybe even a professor. But another great way is to sign up for that program. And I see that Sandy put the link in the chat, and Adam has put the link in for the TCEA and also for Carl Hook.
Yes.
So
Carl
that's
Hooker,
great.
yes.
Yeah. So, Hooker, sorry.
That's
So
okay.
right before it's cut. So right before we move on to your section, while you're getting your PowerPoint pulled up or whatever it is you're going to show us, I do want to give anyone a chance. If you have a question from this section of the talk, if there's something that Tisha said that you'd like to ask more about, go ahead and put it in the chat now while you're thinking about it, and we'll answer it at the end, but at least you'll have it in there so that you don't forget what your question was. Okay, go ahead and take it away, Tisha. We're excited to see what you have to show us.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, we're just going to do this one. So this is Wakelet. And so we didn't mention that, but I went from the classroom to Wakelet. And before I even talk about my story on how Wakelet really did change my life and my teaching life, I like to talk about the fact that it is safe, because that is the first thing as a digital coach I always wanted to know. So we are COPA FERPA CSPC safe. We are a partner with Google and Microsoft. And the truth is, you're going to see that we're partners with so many people that you're going to not believe it. And it's true. You can use anything with Wakelet, but I love to hit on that. And I will just also remind you, it is free. So all of you can go sign up for an account today, www.wakelet.com. It is free. You can create as many collections within Wakelet as you want. And you can also collaborate with as many people on a single collection as you want. And that right there for me was the catch. I had not found a platform that was letting me do all of that for free. And so that's really what pulled me in. But what you should know, and these are my students, what you should know is that I wasn't always on the Wakelet fan club. Like, the truth is, and I think I've told this to Lisa, my face down there in the bottom left-hand corner where my students captured that look, that's how I felt about Wakelet for months. And people would tell me, Tisha, you're a digital learning coach, and we know that you love technology and you really need to check out this platform called Wakelet. And of course, in true veteran teacher fashion, I was like, leave me alone. Don't talk to me about that. And I kept saying it over and over. And this is really where that lesson that I talked about previously came into play. I gave my students their portfolio assignment about this time of year, September, October, and it was going to go for the course of the year. And so I gave them their single point rubric. If you want to know more about single point rubrics, I can give you all kinds of information on that because I love them. And so I put the assignment out, gave them their checkpoint dates. And then, because I was priding myself in giving my students voice and choice, I gave them a list of platforms that they could create their digital portfolio in. And, wasn't a super long list, but I decided, you know what, I'll throw Wakelet on there. We'll see if this works. And so I was a Google certified trainer. And of course, I was encouraging my students to use Google Sites, because why would you not? It's like the most amazing thing. And looking back, I'm like, oh, Tisha, like, little did you know, you should have just opened your mind a bit. So those three young ladies on that front row right there said, Miss Poncio, it's cute how you think that Google Sites is the end all be all of this digital portfolio project, but we're not going to use that. And it's also funny that you think you're giving us voice and choice, because really you are influencing our choice by telling us to do Google Sites. We're going to use Wakelet. And I had some banter back and forth with them. Of course, they're high school students. And I just said, well, we'll see how that works out for you, because I'm not really confident in this at all. And so checkpoint one came through and they turned in their portfolios. And I'm just going to tell you that I was brought to my educational knees and I just went, what is this? Now I was alone when I was grading these projects. So luckily nobody was with me to see that real moment. But I went back to the classroom and I told those three young ladies, I said, first of all, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Second of all, I need you to validate for me why you chose Wakelet. What about Wakelet did you know was going to work so well for this particular project? And so I talk a lot about it not being about the tool necessarily. So my students were doing what I'd always wanted them to do, was take all these tools and go, okay, this is the best tool for this job. And this is the best tool for this job. And right. And so then I said, I want you to sit side by side and show me how to do this. I need you to show me how to do this because I don't even know the first thing about it. And I've opened up Wakelet and I keep closing my laptop because I just don't understand. And that was the day that my entire classroom changed. And I flipped the script just by asking my students to sit side by side and show me Wakelet and validate their reasoning. Of course, my contact information is here. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you also can email me, and you see my Wakelet profile. I do need to update that, but you can find my profile on Wakelet. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram. I'll just let you know I'm everywhere. I meet you where you are. So if you can reach out to me anywhere and you'll find me and I will reply to any of your questions if you have some later. So I always say that, well, Jennifer Gonzalez actually says it, but I was also saying, a well-designed curation project takes a ton of critical thinking. And I remember using that critical thinking in my master's degree. I also remember feeling like as an educator, I was so tired all the time. And it was because I was critically thinking all the time. Even when I was sleeping, I was critically thinking through which is the best lesson, which is the best instructional strategy. Like I just was going through things all the time. And I thought, what if we take that critical thinking and we put some of that on our students? We put some of it on our team. If we, have an ELA team, or I even do that with my own team now. And so the curation and the critical thinking, I thought there's something to this. And if you know anything about the 4 C's, I've added a couple of more. Of course, you have collaboration, communication, citizenship, critical thinking, curation could be one of them. We could add community to that. But Wakelet really afforded me and my students this ability to collaborate, to exchange information so easily. I was having digital citizenship conversations with them. And remember, I told you I was an advocate of digital citizenship before, but we were having conversations on a daily basis because of the things that they were doing inside of Wakelet. Their engagement went so high. And I didn't tell you that I gave them a lesson plan because I wasn't really sure that this would work. I thought it was a one-hit wonder. I gave them a self-paced lesson plan and kind of left it with them and thought, well, we're going to see if this goes well. And the truth is, they finished that entire lesson plan. All of the modules of that lesson plan were inside of a Wakelet, and they were discussing it, and then they were questioning me. And when they were questioning me for putting certain content in there, I knew that they were critically thinking through the information, which is like the epitome of what I had always wanted to do as an educator. But aside from that, on its most basic level, Wakelet will help you communicate better with students and teachers, and help you organize curriculum, organize your own travel. I mean, like Lisa said, you can use it for anything. It doesn't just have to be for education as a student or a teacher. It could be for your personal life. And I'll show you some examples of that. But again, just to reiterate, Wakelet was helping my students understand that information. They were analyzing what I was giving them. And then this was the real power. They were not only evaluating their own work, but they were doing peer-to-peer evaluations. And I'm just going to tell you, I've worked in the adult learning environment for a really long time, and the adults sometimes cannot get to this point. So the fact that my high school students were able to do this and we just kept repeating that process over and over, it was because of Wakelet and the way that we structured things and the way that we were learning together. It really changed everything for them. And you'll see that I've given you some examples. Don't worry, you have a whole bunch of resources after this so that you can go look. But I was hitting multiple learning standards at one time. My students were actively learning. The same could be said if I was teaching a group of teachers or administrators. They were collaborating. They were working on group projects. They were talking to each other. and they were creating. And for me, this was a really big deal in the secondary schools because I felt like their creativity had been squashed so much that they were afraid to create anything. Wakelet provided me that opportunity. And if you're a Canva lover, so if you are a Canva lover, give some applause in the chat, because I know educators and honestly, anybody out there loves Canva these days. We have a Canva integration, Wakelet does, so that you can go create right inside of a Wakelet. And then, of course, I've taught communication, organizing your material, and citizenship. It hits all of these really within one collection, no matter the purpose. And you'll see that. The other great thing is that it doesn't matter what tools you're using. It doesn't even matter. You could tell me any tool. Wakelet is like the EdTech party bus. That's what I've been calling it, because all of the tools that are out there are invited to get on the bus, the Wakelet bus, and your teachers, your administrators, your parents, you drive the Wakelet party bus wherever you need to go. For me, I was driving the bus to get them to digital learning standards. I was getting them to digital portfolios. I wanted that to be really cool. I wanted them to be ready for college and career. So essentially I use that often, but it's really to point out that you can use anything. Now, we also could replace the tools you're already using. I know that you are recognizing some of these tools. We could replace these tools, but we don't have to replace them. You could put a Seesaw link inside of a Wakelet, or a S'more link inside of a Wakelet, or a Padlet link inside of a Wakelet. But Wakelet can also do what Seesaw's doing, S'more's doing, Padlet's doing, et cetera, et cetera. So it's versatile. And it's just really, really incredible. Okay, so it's powerful. I just said it was versatile. Really anything you're using, multimedia, digital tools, documents, files. I told you we do Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive. I could go on and on. It's unlimited. You don't have any limits, and it's safe. I just don't know how much better we can get with this. This is a day in the life of a Wakelet classroom, curating resources. So if you're doing a research project, my 7th grader, when he was in 5th grade, was doing research projects, and he was pulling together his research articles in a single collection and sending that over to Canvas for his assignment. So the teacher was getting one link, being able to see all of that research, and then it could go from there in that process, whatever, if they were writing a paper or whatever. Lesson planning, I've hit on. Student assignments, digital research, storytelling. Again, it's about creativity over completion. And so you can really hit the high engagement with your students. And then if you just want to create a newsletter, Lisa, I even put an example of a marketing newsletter in the collection that I have sent out of resources so that you can have that. And then I just want to show you this. We talk collaboration, but you can copy collections, you can make templates. Immersive Reader is the really highlight here. It's the biggest thing, because Immersive Reader will translate the text in a collection in over 60, 80 languages. Also, you can accommodate, you and your students can accommodate, but you can also accommodate for yourself. You can change the font, the text, like you could go on and on. So Immersive Reader is built in. I know, I'm telling you, I have a child who has a 504 plan, and that is part of it. I'm teaching him how to accommodate for himself. So when he gets to college and career, he's not dependent on a teacher or a program or a document to do that for him. I'm going really quickly because I want to make sure we have Q&A, but here is that graphic that I love to show, because I know that you use some of these tools. And if you use any of these tools, they're all going to work with your Wakelet. No questions asked. It's going to happen. And if you have questions on that, you have my email. We also have a browser extension. If you are an extension fan, you're going to love it. I don't use extensions very often. What I do use is the app. I use it all day, every day. And this for me was the second part of why I moved over to Wakelet. Google Sites doesn't have an app. Google Sites wasn't letting me update everything on the go. It wasn't letting me in a single link share things out or change a sub lesson plan on a collection right on the spot. It really helped me bridge communication gaps and helped me be productive in a seamless way. Of course, I have research. So let me get out of this one because I want to show you now. Adam has this link for you, but this is a Wakelet collection that I have put together for you. It's called How to Get Started with Wakelet. And I have made it into a column layout. So when you click this little pen here, this little paintbrush, you'll get to change the layout depending on the purpose of your collection. I like to individualize learning. So if you want to go watch videos, Lisa, you can go to this column, lots of videos. You don't want a video? You want to go read an article? You can go read some articles. Maybe you don't like either of those options and you just want to look at the graphics. Well, I have put together a Canva presentation with all sorts of graphics, including best integration practices with Wakelet. And then I have put together a ton of examples for you. So here's a student leadership lesson plan. You can make a copy of this. You can go make it your own, a 5E model of instruction. A lot of this is really focused on educators, but it could be said that you can use it for anything. Back channeling. Lisa could make a Wakelet collection during these sessions and have you add your questions. And then that's where everything's together. And we could go talk about that for weeks if we wanted to. I could even add a Flipgrid video if I wanted to ask Lisa a direct question. So I've added a ton of examples, but what I'm going to show you is my portfolio. And that's what these are here. These profiles are portfolios. So I've added everyone's, it looks like, except for mine. So we'll put that in the chat. I'll make sure that Adam has that. I've even added a little choice board here and another presentation. And if you want to be Wakelet certified, there is a link there so you can go through that process, get a certification. And if you have issues, you know, you can email me. UNT people, they get a special rate. No, I'm kidding. If you email me and you say you were on this presentation and you're with UNT, I'm going to help you and I'll send your messages over to support. But if you want to send it directly yourself, you can do that there. I told you Wakelet's all on social media. We have all kinds of videos on YouTube that you can catch up on, and then you can follow me. There is that profile I was going to show you really quickly. Here is what that portfolio looks like. And it did not start off this way. It looks this way because of my students. I've done a lot of work on this, and you can see I've linked my social media accounts, my LinkedIn profile. And I can't remember what, I think this might be my TikTok channel, but I have put together essentially what UNT asked me to do. I just pulled in writings and articles. So there are articles about my students, media. You can go watch most recently the Canva Wakelet webinar that we did. So we are partners with Canva and we did a webinar on that. That link is in there. And then I have a ton of examples and profiles that you can go look at, templates that you can take and make copies of, just practicing. And just to quickly show you, Lisa, I know we probably have questions because I can see it on your face, but 2 minutes. Okay. I'm going to show you this. This is my profile. Now, forgive me. This is a lot here. It is very overwhelming. So your profile will not look this way, but I want to take you to this because I created a collection called Tisha's Travel Tips. The reason I did this is because I go to Manchester, England often, where my company is headquartered. And I also travel now all over the country, and I had to figure out travel real quick. So what I'm asked all the time is, Tisha, what are your best travel tips? I don't know what I need to pack. I don't know how this is going to work. So I put it all together in a Wakelet collection with all of the Amazon links here. If you too bad I don't have a storefront. I don't. But I have put in even my microphone that I'm using now. I travel with that. I have some travel little video lights that I take, but it can be anything. And that's what I want you to know. There is a way, not the way. And that's really where I'm going to end on it. Whatever you use Wakelet for is going to be the best thing for you. And that is really, it's just unlimited possibilities. I see Sarah loves Canva. Yes, we have lots of Canva fans out there.
Wow, that is overwhelming. It's going to take me a long time to process all of that because I'm not really a technical person, but it looks like I could understand it all and
Yes,
and do something with it.
you could. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. Did anybody in the audience know about Wakelet before now? Put in the chat if you already had heard of Wakelet. You might have just converted a bunch of new Wakelet customers.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay, so Alejandro says he had heard of it, but he had never used it.
You know, that's the case a lot of times, Lisa. People have heard of it and they just do not know the power yet until they can see those examples, right? Being able to see it and like using it for discussions is such a great
Dr.
thing.
Moore says, yeah.
Absolutely. Using it for a back channel for discussions, collaboration. We even used it during the pandemic. I had a theater teacher that said, we can't have, I need ticketless systems. What are you going to do for me? We use Wakelet. We put the Google form in Wakelet. We put the Canva program in Wakelet. Like everything went into the Wakelet. And when you share a Wakelet, there is an automatic QR code. So we could just print that off and put it all over the school and people could scan it. There's so many use cases out there, and it doesn't matter what you do, what your purpose is. I can give you an idea. So you have my email now.
I'm starting to think of all the QR codes we use to get people registered for events, and perhaps we need to start thinking about that. Yeah.
Okay. We would love to do a Wakelet.
Adam and Sandy, take notes. Okay. There were a few questions in the chat. Alejandro had a question. He wanted to know, how did you build how to build your professional network, and also social media? How did you do that?
So I will tell you that the first thing I did is I decided where I wanted to be on social media. Now, I can tell you from my experience, Alejandro, is that Twitter, for me, there is a huge community of educators on Twitter and social networking and professional networking. So when I was talking Web3, there's a whole community of Web3 people, and then there's a whole community of Web3 educators. That is where I would start. And the truth is, I always say this, but if you start a Twitter account and you DM me and you need followers and you want to find people and you have like your passions, if you'll tell me what those are, I will retweet you. Because I did not start off, if you look at my Twitter account, it's almost to 10,000 followers organically. At least I did not pay for these. I always like to joke with that. I know somebody's like, Tisha, you paid for those. I'm like, no, I didn't start off that way. I just started off exchanging information and joining chats. There are so many chats that you can take part in, but that's also where you will learn the conferences. And then when you go to those conferences, maybe you can build your network. It is a slow process, doesn't happen overnight. I would say Twitter is one of the best ones to do that. Of course, there are people on TikTok and Instagram. I would say, where are you most comfortable? Start there. If you aren't comfortable with TikTok, like don't go to TikTok and try to like build your PLN, because you won't be comfortable. Start slow. When you create your account, just observe, just go follow some people. You can even go to my account, follow some of the people that I follow, because I do vet who I follow. I don't follow everybody. If they're an educator, if they're in education, if they are a former student, like I have a whole protocol of who I follow. And so you can do that, find people that you trust and follow those people. And then you'll start seeing them on your timeline and you can start interacting with them. But it is a slow process. I'm an introvert. You would never know that by this presentation because I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about, but it is like going into a party room and I'm just like over in the corner observing. That's what you would do. And then eventually you'll find people that you trust that do what you do or do what you want to do, and you'll start connecting with them and you'll ask them questions. And eventually, and I will tell you, Lisa, some of the best friends I've ever made are on social media.
Really?
And I get, yes, absolutely. Because remember, I was an instructional technology specialist. I was the only one in my district for years and years and years. Nobody could relate to my role, my struggles, my victories. And so I went to Twitter. That's why, to find other instructional technology specialists. And so I found so many, plus so many more. And now it is my dream. I'm working and connecting and collaborating with some of those Twitter education people that I followed and just watched for a really long time. So what a journey that is, but don't be afraid. I said, feel the fear and do it anyway. If you don't love social media, I get it. I do, but it can serve you well if you force it to.
Yes. And I just, because you mentioned following, I wonder, do you follow COI on all of our platforms, on all of our channels?
I know I follow on Facebook, and I have to go double check. So I'll get with you, make sure I have all of those accounts on all of my platforms.
And all of the rest of you here also, hopefully you're following us.
Yes, for sure.
And then I thought of another side hustle for you. You say you have so many followers, and there's people on Twitter begging for followers every day. I think you should sell your followers.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I know. I should be like, okay, for $5, I'll retweet your account.
Exactly. Okay. There was another question in the chat, and that you kind of started to touch on this. This is about organizations. What organizations and conferences do you most suggest?
So of course I've mentioned TCA, and when you go to TCA. Like if you just sign up for TCA, and that's how I started. Someone mentioned it to me and I thought, you know what, I'll give this a shot. I went to TCA. I loved it. Because it's Texans running it. I'm just telling you, it's one of the best conferences in the entire country. And now I've gone to all sorts of conferences. They have their stuff together. You're going to find something that you love, sessions that you love. And then you'll just start meeting people, because Texans are always like really friendly. I would say Q. So for example, there's a fall Q and spring Q. If you have California friends, they can tell you about that. There's Mass Q. FETC used to always be in Florida. That is another really big one. And it's escaping me what it stands for, Lisa. I did know the TCA. FETC is definitely technology education. But I would say when search technology education conferences and see what comes up. For me, I just know now FETC, ISTE, TCEA, but then even in a couple of weeks, I'm going to an ELA conference, an English conference in California that is specific to English teachers. So whatever you're interested in, I know that there is a conference out there for you. If you don't know where to start and you have an idea, if you'll email me, I have a list of conferences that I can look through and give you some advice on. But I would also tell you, and Alejandro kind of said, he isn't using it consistently, Twitter, but you will find so many free events from so many of those companies that you love. So Flip, formerly known as Flipgrid, they do free PD. We do free PD. Canva has free PD. If you will get on social media, you will find that there's so much free PD out there. And through that free PD, you'll start finding the things that are going to be worth it for you to go to.
Yeah. And it sounds like even as Alejandra had asked about building a professional learning network, that you could do that at these conferences too.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I do remember that when we first met, Wakelet was just getting ready to have their free professional development, and you sent me the links and asked me to advertise it in our department. And I did. I advertised it to the entire college. So hopefully some of our students took advantage of that.
Absolutely.
I know students are pressed and busy, just like the professors are pressed and busy. Yes. But when something, is something you're passionate about, you have to prioritize and make time for it. It looks like we've got some links in the chat for FETC. Thank you, Sandy. And also our social media channels. Thank you, Sandy. And then the Texas Computer Education Association.
Perfect.
I don't see any. Did I miss anybody's questions in the chat? I don't think so. I think I got them all. Does anyone have any final questions for Tisha? We're coming up on the top of the hour. We've got about 4 minutes left before we need to wrap up.
I love it. This was a great discussion. Honestly, I've had so much fun sharing, Lisa. And you may think of something later. I was going to tell you, there is a TCEA. When you go to tca.org, there is a Wakelet course. You will get me on that Wakelet course. I put a course together for TCA about Wakelet, but I will tell you, we have so many different options. So I talked about the free, everything is free. You don't have to pay for anything. But if you have connections with people in districts, superintendents, curriculum directors, principals, we also have a district premium package that we are starting up, and that syncs in. So if you know anything about student information systems, it syncs in. And so we can create accounts seamlessly for a school or a whole district. So we have options for that. So I just want to make sure, because we do have a lot of teachers and a lot of curriculum directors that say, it's great that I can go sign up for free by myself, but I have all of these teachers, and that's just one more thing for their plate. So we want to do this as a district, and we're going to gift them this service. And so if you want that, and definitely, hello, how are you? Good to see you. It has been so long. Definitely, if you go to my account, or if you email me, I'll send you the link. We have something called a Wakelet Masterclass. And that will step-by-step take you through how to start with Wakelet, how to create a collection. It will walk you through those steps. And then my colleague Ryan and I have something that we're starting tonight, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it's called the Wakelet Pro Series. And what we do is we really, really hone in on that tech integration piece, the SAMR model, the TPAC model. Like we're like super instructional technology and instructional design nerds. So that's what you're going to get on that Pro Series, is really how to utilize that with students for student engagement. Let's see.
Colette has a question, and you did answer this question, but I can't remember what you said either because you've said so much. So I'm going to let you re-answer about
Colette. Okay. What do you think the most important point or advice you could give? Tell me specifically, is it in regards to PLN? Is it in regards to Wakelet? Is it in regards to moving from the classroom to ed tech? Just clarify that for me, Colette.
Yeah,
so
it's a big question, right? We might be here another hour.
It's true. Lisa knows me too well.
Which is great. I love that about you. It's so easy to interview you. I just ask the question and I sit around for about 10 minutes.
I've been told that so often. Okay, moving from class to tech. Okay, so the best advice I have, one is to build a PLN. Find people who are doing what you're doing. Reach out to them, get to know them, follow them on social media, and then really start honing in on how are you going to show off what you know, right? So one of the things I said was your resume and your CV is a promise. I can write that I went to UNT Learning Technologies and that I've presented all over the world. Lisa said that anybody could say anything about any of us, right? But when you go to my profile, which I think Adam linked in there, when you go to my Wakelet profile, you are going to see video of me presenting. You're going to see video of me podcasting and interviewing people like Lisa. You're going to see my students. You're going to see articles of my students and how I engage them and how I built that program. When you can visually see that, anybody that you want to work with, it's going to be hard to argue that because they're seeing it right in front of them, right? And that is always a question when you're interviewing people for jobs. They aren't sure what they're going to get. You want to show them what they're going to get. You want to be all out there and showcase your talent, your expertise, your knowledge, and your skills. And so that is really my best advice. The other thing I would do, look into the ed tech. If you have an ed tech company that you want to work for, like if you were just dead set, I have a friend who just wants to work for Seesaw. like that is it. That's who she wants to work for. And so I've just kind of given her advice in that regard. And if it's a platform that you really believe in, for me, that's what it was. I really believe in Wakelet. I'm not sure that I didn't just go find something. I did have a rubric. So I want Colette to know that. And I know you aren't surprised by this, but I made myself a rubric and it was like, okay, if I leave the classroom for a company, this company better have this, and I was very specific, Colette. I think I had probably 25 to 30 items on that rubric. And the truth is, when the opportunity came up with Wakelet and I could check off all of those, that's when I knew my answer. And I had interviewed with other companies that could not check those off. So that's how I knew that it was a no. And I always say, give it your best yes. So don't tell everybody yes. Say yes to the things that are really going to give you that passion. Because as Lisa knows, even when I am on 4 hours of sleep, if you start talking to me about Wakelet, suddenly I have energy like I have slept for a week.
I watched you presenting at the conference with those educators in front of you, and I just thought, wow, she must have had a lot of coffee.
I know it is a misconception that I have so much coffee, but the truth is it's because it's a passion. And I told Lisa this before we got on, but the truth is I was meant to be an educator. I always will be an educator, whether I'm in a classroom with students or I'm presenting to educators or you. I am a teacher at heart. That's what I was meant to do. And because I know the power of Wakelet and I know how it will help solve any problem that you might have in your role, that is how I can come at you with so much energy and passion about it.
That's great. That's excellent. Well, we've come up to the top of the hour, and I'm glad to see, Colette, that she inspired you to go start working on your rubric. We probably all should work on a rubric, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. You never know.
Plant the seed.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Tisha. Let's all give Tisha a round of applause and a thank you, a gratitude for coming today and teaching us so much about Wakelet and about her own personal career journey. We can learn a lot from and be inspired by your path, your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa and team behind the scenes. And thank all of you who joined. I know you're all so busy. I get it, but just know that you have my email, you have that resource link. You can reach out to me anytime. And I will always joke that the UNT people are going to get a discounted rate on Tisha.
That sounds great. We love discounts, right? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We hope to see you at our next C.O.D.E series event and also our Discovery series events. And thank you again, Tisha. We will be in touch. And of course, your alumni profile will be coming out in the next alumni newsletter. So I hope you'll be watching for it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.